All right. Hello and welcome to Issues, a podcast in which I, A.E. Stuvie, interview folks about their favorite single issue of any comic book ever. In this series, I meet with fans and pros to discuss not only why they like a particular issue they are sharing, but why comic books in general are important, not only to them, but to pop culture. If you'd like to be a guest, let me know. I love hearing about everyone's issues. See what I did there? Okay. Joining me today is another comic fan I met on Threads when I got bored one afternoon and posed this question about comics to the algorithm. All the comics readers out there, do you have a favorite single issue of a comic book? I'm not talking about a graphic novel. I'm talking old school floppy. I have one that pops up immediately when I think of this. It's X Factor number 87. You can read about it in a previous post on Substack. But that's enough about me. Let me introduce you to Eric Schaefges. Eric, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your relationship with comic books?
Sure. Hello. I'm a Chicagoland resident who's been collecting comics for about 30 years.
Wow.
And I think I have somewhere in the neighborhood, if you count collected single issues and collected editions,
Mhm.
somewhere in the neighborhood of 24 to 27,000 issues. Uh,
Wow.
most of which after college. So I was like 12 when I started collecting. My first issue
Mhm.
at the local uh, drugstore when I was
Mhm.
waiting for my medicine when I had a cold. I was sick from school that day. I picked up Wolverine 86, which is a terrible first issue to read. It's got like Wolverine's not in it. It's got the robot Wolverine,
Oh,
Albert.
Arnold.
Arnold,
Albert, yeah.
Albert, yeah,
Albert.
and LCD, the robot girl, and
Yep.
it's like nonsensical entry point. But I had been watching the cartoon show, and I
Hmm.
was just sort of hooked from there. And from there, I wanted to know more and learn more and stuff. And
Hmm.
so I read more and more X-Men comics, and then gradually merged into the greater Marvel universe, and then into the greater comics universe. And then after high school, college, it just became difficult to manage the issues. And so
Hmm.
I really started converting to trade paperbacks, which Bill Jemas had started pushing around that same time period.
Yep. Hmm.
And so I went to paperbacks and eventually like hardcovers and omnis. And I have a lot of them. Like right next to me here is like 600 of them. So, yeah, I've been reading a lot, and I like all kinds and flavors. I would say superhero wise, I gravitate more towards the Marvel universe than DC,
Okay.
um, but I like some of both. I also like a lot of Image, Dark Horse, some manga,
Mhm.
independent stuff like um, Asterix or one of the
Okay.
ones I'll talk about would be or Usagi Ojimbo
Oh,
or
okay.
um, like a lot of a lot of different things. One of the ones I'll talk about is like not my number one favorite issue would be the Don Rosa and Carl Barks Uncle Scrooge Donald Duck books,
Okay.
which I think are fabulous adventure storytelling. But I guess before I get to that, what where do you want to go? Where should I go next, sir?
Okay, well, because this, like I told you before we started recording, one of my goals with the podcast is to keep it relatively short, like a drive to work sort of podcast, right? But I also like to keep our audience with us. So before we get to your number one, I would like to hear about your number two and your number three, and just a little explanation about those.
Sure. So I had to think about that for a little while, and there have a lot of like close favorites, and I changed my number three spot a few times. But for number three, I ended up selecting uh, Thunderbolts issue number one,
Okay.
and this was uh, by Kurt uh, Busiek and Mark Bagley, and it came out when I was in high school,
Mhm.
and I had no interest in the Avengers. I was an X-Men guy, uh, and I wasn't really any of the Avengers that had no appeal, and that was true for most comic fans until Robert Downey Jr.
Mhm.
So I didn't really care when they in the Marvel Onslaught event, they took all the superheroes
Mhm.
and put them into another universe. I didn't care. But then they had this new superhero team and called the Thunderbolts that was coming out with a brand new issue 1. And I was always kind of a sucker for a brand new story with new characters that
Mhm.
I could get on a ground floor on. And the Charlie at Dreamland Comics in Arlington Heights, which is now defunct, but he's at the Dreamland Comics in Libertyville, Illinois. Uh, Charlie was this nice man who helped the high school Eric, uh, and he would recommend a lot of books to me. And so he recommended this issue and just said, "Take a look." There was no internet to spoil me at the time, so he just said, "Take a look. I hope you enjoy this." And it was. Um, I don't want to spoil it for people because there's a movie coming out in May,
Oh
but
yeah.
but like people are going to read and discover this series, but the premise of the movie is not the same as the premise of the book, and the
Mhm.
book was plays very much like a generic superhero story until the very last page,
Yep.
and I had no expectation of that, and it just was one of those like the the power of comics to like blow you away with a surprise you didn't see coming by the physical act of turning the page. Uh, it is pretty cool and it's pretty unique, and that one sticks with me.
Yeah. Oh.
Number two uh, would be, as I alluded before, uh, Don Rosa and Carl Barks. Carl Barks was a Disney animator who created the character of Uncle Scrooge
Mhm.
and several other Donald Duck peripheral characters and popularized them in a series of comics that ran from the like 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Mhm.
And then in the 80s and 90s, a super fan of the originals named Don Rosa actually became his own illustrator. And instead of like just doing generic stories uh, about Donald Duck, he took everything that Carl Barks had written and became his like Bible, his canon. And then he created like sequel stories and spin-offs and stuff, but made it more of like a shared universe of continuity in subtle ways, while every issue is still like a 15 to 20 page self-contained story. And
Mhm.
one of those is I don't have the exact issue number because it's published different numbers in different countries and stuff
Yeah.
and different publications with the Donald Duck and Disney licenses. But the issue title, if you look on the Googles, is called A Matter of Some Gravity. And in this, it's a simple battle between Uncle Scrooge and Magica De Spell over Scrooge's number one dime. And he has his first dime he ever got is sentimental for him, but she believes that it is like the source of his wealth and power, and that if she can take it, she can become wealthy. That's her running bit for this
Mhm.
character.
Yep.
So, A Matter of Some Gravity is like a 20-page story where she gets a wand which alters a person's personal gravity, and uh, uses it to try to steal the dime. Like she wants to basically zap the dime, so instead of sitting on a pillow, it turns sideways and flings right into her hand. Well,
Okay.
Scrooge and Donald get zapped as well, and um, and mayhem ensues for the next 20
Of
pages as
course.
they have like sideways gravity and they're flying sideways through the city of Duckburg, like landing on the sides of buildings or the sides of vehicles and lampposts and stuff, and trying to, and then, or on the ceiling and crawling through things. And one of the things that, first, it's just a funny, well written 20-page story,
Yeah.
but also it really shows like the visual excitement and impact of comics, of how you can use the visual page to like literally in this case flip the reader's expectations
Mhm.
on head. And so excuse me, so that was my number two choice, just because it's another issue that it's accessible, easy to read, and funny for people to look at, but also really just says, wow, like comics are creative and fun and interesting, and this is hard to do in other mediums, but man, it's exciting here.
Right. Oh, those are great. Those are great choices. I remember that Thunderbolts, the that last page, that reveal. I was. I dropped the comic. I was like,
Right.
what?
I am so glad I was not like spoiled on that, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot good about the internet, but there's also a lot bad. Like there was no way to get spoiled. I mean, you'd have to wait until the latest issue of Wizard came out, and that was
And
after.
they definitely, yeah, Wizard definitely went into spoilers on that
Mhm,
afterward. But
mhm.
for those who were there on that day one, like, oh man, that was like
Yeah,
the pinnacle comics moment.
it was phenomenal. Oh God, like that's how good superhero stories are told right there. And of course, I mean, anytime you throw in Uncle Scrooge and Donald Duck. I have to ask before we move on though. So with your fondness of the Uncle Scrooge comics, what's your stance on the DuckTales cartoons? Both of
I
them.
I like them both. I mean, the first one I watched as a kid,
Yep.
I didn't read the Uncle Scrooge comics until I was in college.
Mhm.
And they now Fantagraphics has put out an amazing set of hardcovers where you can
Mhm.
read them all and highly recommend it. But the modern DuckTales, I think, is a there are purists who hate changes to any medium, but I
Yep.
feel like I feel like mediums require adaptation for different storytelling styles, and I think that the modern DuckTales is about as perfect of a cartoon as you can imagine.
Yeah.
It infuses the spirit of the Barks Rosa stories and a lot of the actual storylines
Mhm.
with like the ongoing continuity of like modern day TV with
Mhm.
like the manic uh, Venture Brothers style, like quick cut
Mhm.
action and editing, and I just like it's charming and delightful.
Yeah.
And David Tennant and Bobby Moynihan and Danny Pudi and everybody, they're great.
They're fantastic. Yes. I think we're gonna get along. This is good. Okay.
New
Well,
friends.
that was fun. Now, I already told you, and the audience hasn't heard it yet, but I already told you, you are not the only person that brought this particular issue up. So I've actually already heard discussions from other guests about why they really like this issue, why this issue is number one. So I'm very excited to hear what you have to say about it, but I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to let you say what issue it is and what it is about it that you like, and I'm just going to let you go. So,
Sure. So he asked what my number one favorite issue of a comic book was, and I said that of all things, it is Astro City issue number one half. So speaking of Wizard magazine, they used to do a thing where they would publish special like issue zero or issue one half
mhm.
episodes of popular comics, sort of as an incentive to buy the magazine, and also uh, as a way to promote titles that people may have not necessarily had their eyes on.
Mhm.
And Astro City is a series I had it originally in issues, but I had since converted to paperbacks on that, and I sold my original issues. Even though, like I said, it's my favorite comic book, I had to make money.
Yeah,
I was a poor man once,
I get it. I get
um,
it.
but Astro City issue number one half is a self-contained story, and Astro City the book is a the same guy who wrote Thunderbolts, actually, Kurt Busiek. Uh, he came up with a series about superheroes similar to the Marvel Universe and DC Universe, with a lot of analogs and uh, characters that are similar in style to
Mhm.
Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the X-Men, Fantastic Four, etc. But instead of focusing on like the big superhero dramatics and battles, it focused on like the superheroes on their day off,
Mhm.
or the superhero's best friend, or in the case of Astro City number one half, it focuses on some random guy who has nothing to do with the superheroes at all, but kind of gets caught up in their mess. Um,
Mhm.
and so the premise of the issue, without spoiling too much, is that there's just a dude who lives in the city of Astro City, which is the metropolis. It's the New York. It's the superhero city. He lives in the city, and it's just plagued by dreams of a woman that he's never met. or he's pretty sure he's never met. And so the story is he's asking around, talking to people about family members, friends, like, do you remember this girl looked like this, kind of like this? This was her name. Her name was Miranda. Everyone's like, you crazy. Uh, but um, then he gets a visit from a superhero who kind of explains what happened to him. And through superhero shenanigans, uh, this person that he was married to stopped existing and uh,
like they didn't
like
die. They're
time
just gone. Just
erased from time due to time travel timey-wimey nonsense is they they had like an Avengers Endgame like time travel thing,
hmm,
but kind of like, okay, we returned the time stones. There was a moment in their story where like they didn't quite perfectly put things back the way they were, and so basically some people never existed or other people changed slightly, and one of those people caught in the mess was her grandparents, which meant that this girl never existed. And the basically the story is that their love was so strong that they had such a close bond that even though she never existed, like this guy's life couldn't alter enough to like forget her. So he's still remembering her. And he's faced with a choice by the superhero who is visiting him. It was like a magical powered super being. He's faced with the choice of, hey, I can make you forget everything about this woman,
hmm,
uh, and you'll be at peace, or you can just I can leave and you'll have the understanding of what happened here, but you'll still have this connection and still dream of her forever. And I'm not going to spoil what happens. Someone else might have in a different podcast, but that is you have to listen to more issues. But that is the crux of the story, and it is only 16 pages long. These issue one halves were not full size comics, um, but in 16 pages, he introduces brand new character, two characters, the husband and his non-existent wife.
hmm.
He introduces some superheroes that have kind of been in the background of other issues. Introduces an entire time travel crossover that Marvel or DC would have done in like 40 issues or whatever with tie-ins. He introduces the whole plot in 16 pages, and it's not about the superhero battle at all, but it's about like this one man's life and his love of a woman and the loss that he feels by her absence. And it's powerful storytelling.
Yeah.
It's great economic, quick storytelling that, if nothing else, shows you like in just a few pages like how much impact you can get
Mhm.
uh, out of a comic book or out of a story. And I don't think any other medium could convey this story is like this only exists in comics.
Mhm.
It can't be adapted
It wouldn't
well.
transfer as
Yeah.
it wouldn't it's like the Crisis on Infinite Earths concept that they did with like the Flash
Yeah.
shows on CW, which it's fine. It's not I'm not gonna dog on it,
It's fine.
but it just doesn't transfer as well as
It's uniquely
does.
comics.
Yeah, yeah.
It just fits in the visual medium where you're reading the words and controlling the time pace yourself
Yep.
as you're flipping through the pages.
Mhm.
And um and it's a sweet, beautiful story.
It
And so
is.
for that's why I like it, and I recommend it as so Astro City has like probably 14 volumes. I talk too
Mhm.
much now. 14 volumes and in hardcover or paperbacks. And now they've got these like phone books, like 4 or 5 phone book
Yeah.
editions to collect it. But the second of the paperbacks is the one I recommend. It's called Confession, and it has the issue one half in it.
Mhm.
It also has my favorite of the Astro City stories as well, which is like Batman and Robin in the Astro City universe, where Batman is a priest called the Confessor,
Oh.
and Robin is a character called Altar Boy, and there are plot twists and stuff within, but it's one of my favorite Batman stories, and Batman's not in it. Um, so that book is my intro recommendation. Is someone who's like, I'm on the fence about superhero stuff. I don't
Mhm,
know. Is like, try this out, and you
mhm.
can see both in the main story plus the one half side story. I feel like you get a really great encapsulation of like the power of comics, especially in the superhero genre.
Yeah, the superhero. That's because the superhero comic is its own distinct thing. Like apart from like you mentioned, Usagi Yojimbo earlier,
Right.
which is also one of my all-time favorite. I am not the kind of person that gets overly excited about meeting famous people, and
Stan.
I met Stan and I was an idiot. I was like, you're the greatest thing that's ever happened. I love you.
I have one of his ornaments that he remarked on the like he drew a drawing on it, and my wife was like, "Why did you pay so much for a Christmas ornament?" And I was like, "Because Stan Sakai drew Usagi Yojimbo on the back of it, and that is worth it."
It's
Uh,
definitely worth it. Oh, God. Um, all right. Well, you have some great opinions, I think, about comics, man. These are that I have to tell you one thing. I think that all stories can be boiled down to four themes. Uh, love, uh, death, time, and hope. I think those are the four big ones. And yeah, there are other ones, but they're the umbrella, right? And that's Astro City One Half. That it's all of them are
I was gonna
just
say it's got all four. Yeah,
right in
yeah.
16 pages. That's the that like anyway.
Had you read it before the survey had come out? Had you read that issue?
I read it, but it had been years. I mean, I read it like when it first came out with Wizard. So it was, what was that, like 94?
Uh, or 95 or something like that. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was somewhere in that mid 90s range.
Yeah. So it's been a very long time. Um, and I was happy to dive back into it after so many people had said that. I was like,
I
what?
know I was getting notification after notification of how many likes my post had, and I was like, wow, there's an audience for this one. I didn't know. I thought it was kind of like, oh, this is my book. I didn't realize everybody loves this one, and then I looked and found out it won all kinds of awards, and it has issue half has its own Wikipedia page
I saw it. I was like,
just for just for that,
yeah.
and so yeah, not because it's like, oh, this is the issue where you know, Captain America and Iron Man meet for the first time. There's no, it's just because it's just well told
It's
story.
just a great story. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Well, Eric, anything else before we close it up?
Uh, Not much. I think it's been a pleasure to talk to you. And you know what? For someone who has a lot of issues, you've been a lot of fun. So thanks thanks for having me and talking comics. This has been really a blast.
Oh, well, thank you for joining me today. Maybe I'll have to bring you back for another episode eventually. We'll see
I've
how.
got more comics. We can do 4, 5, and 6.
All right. Yeah, I got I got a few lined up, but I might hit you up again, my friend. Um, and don't forget, if you have friends that want to talk about their favorite comic, connect them with me. You know where to find me. And everybody else out there in podcast land, thank you too. And if you want to talk about comics, if you want to share your issues, please do. All right. Well, thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
We will see everybody later.